Okay, today is special. It's heavy. It's YVM3 day. It's a special day because this is a mysterious entity that we actually don't know who it is yet. We don't know if it's 3 people or 1 person. I did a little bit of deep diving on identity on them, so we're going to look into some of this. But first, let me show you the remake. I'm loving the song In Nowhere, and I'm going to show you how I recreated it and basically the techniques that they're using to make amazing, crazy, heavy metal TEAROUT. Let's check it. Let's go. Oh, you know what it is. You know what it is. Big layers, big function, big fun time. All right, let's get into this. You hear these synths. We're in D minor right now. We're going to get into the synths later. First, we're going to get into the guns. There's lots of layers going on. New techniques I'm using. A lot of complex stuff going on. But if you want this complex sound, you got to do the complex thing. First off, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I want to show you the deep dive that we did here to figure out who this was. And let me just show you the research I did here. So if you type in who is YVM3, we get a little Reddit forums, you know what I'm saying? And if you dig into them, people are making TikTok videos saying Y is for Yakz, V is for Voyd, M is for Marauda. People saying they announced it at summoning. They're saying that they heard it from people at summoning. We even have some screenshots here saying that at the First Bank Center in Denver, Sudden Death said, "This is part of my new project and it's fucked," after dropping some YVM3. We also have Yakz on Twitter saying, "I'm not the Y. Sudden Death is not the V. Marauda is not the M. And the 3 is not 3 people." But then he does say, "No, we definitely played into it as a joke in the beginning. But everyone needs to know that YVM3 is just 1 person and is the future." The way he says this is interesting. Next, we'll see what happens at Red Rocks. At Summoning Fest, they said it was Marauda and Yakz. I heard it. It's not crazy. So people saying it's Marauda and Yakz a lot. And Sudden Death, aka Voyd. Right? Many people saying they heard it at Summoning. At Summoning, they said it was them. I believe it's a collective. So other people are saying it could be mixing and matching. It being Yakz may be true. If we look here, Sudden Death tweeted, said it is 1 person. It's not Marauda and Yakz and him. They're on the stage. It's definitely not pre-recorded. It's their choice to remain anonymous, and it's not a gimmick. It's simply part of the presentation and lore. I don't know if you know, but they're like, when they're performing, they're not even showing face. They just performed at Rampage and no one was on stage. So you would like just be hearing the best music in the whole world, but like no one's even up there and everyone's just going crazy. And you got to see this. So I'm not going to play any of it, but I want you to see when it gets really lit how there's no one on the stage. So see, no one's on the stage. See right here. No one on the stage, no one on the stage. See right there, empty. So keep this in mind. Very confusing, but what's coming up next? April 4th, 2024, the Mellow Death Tour with, guess who? YVM3. Now, YVM3 is with Sudden Death. Pike is also known to be Yakz. Like if you look up who's Pike, which is like this rhythm DJ who's been going hard, blowing up recently, people are saying it's Yakz too. He's also staying anonymous. So if Yakz is really close with Sudden Death, obviously. This is known. They're like super close. They're big in the industry. And if you look at this, if Pike is Yakz and YVM3 is Yakz, and sudden death. I mean, this would make sense, you know, this flyer would make sense if it's them. But if Marauda is apparently the M, this is April 4th. We'll check out the Marauda tour. Marauda is touring on April 4th. Marauda will be in Tennessee. So he won't be able to be in Denver at the same time on this date. So it's very hard to say Marauda is part of it unless he's just not performing with them. And like they're just doing some wild, wild west stuff right now. So we don't even know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? But one thing you want to check out the Yakz tour. Very suspicious. No tour dates until Forbidden Kingdom in June. So he's probably working on a different project, touring on a different project, which would probably be Pike, right? If you look at the Pike tour, he's playing at Red Rocks with yvm3. Interesting. Playing at Forbidden Kingdom. Then we look at Forbidden Kingdom. Then you see on the lineup. I mean, there's not a lot of people on this lineup, right? But 3 people are Yakz, Pike, and yvm3. So a lot of this points back to Yakz, you know what I'm saying? And Yakz he's big with metal, man. Look at his description here. David Mittori, roots in metal as a vocalist for several years. This would make sense with the genre that's coming out. If he has his TEAROUT project, yvm3, he has his Rhythm project, Pike. Yakz is his OG project. And then you can see here the connections with Sudden Death. His first hits were with Sudden Death. So this is awesome information. And then you can read some interviews. He's saying he is really into metal, and his favorite bands like Slipknot, Thy Art Is Murder, Whitechapel, Carnifex, Suicide Silence. And then some songs say featuring Yakz. You know, he may be doing vocals on some of the yvm3 songs, which is why he put himself featured. There's all kinds of different routes and techniques and stuff, but nevertheless, the music is amazing. So these guns, big fat guns, we're going to check the master lefts, see how loud everything is so you guys can understand. Do the processing, layering. We're going to see what it takes. And then if you want the full project, that's going to be my Patreon. So you guys can download this and check out the techniques, start learning how to do all this fun stuff. First things first, this gun group is holding it down. It's in my lows. If we solo it, we have the sub with the guns together, and they're being processed together. Let's check these out. Freaking heavy, super heavy. We have multiple layers here. Audio and MIDI are being used. We're using just like multiple gun samples, basically. So we're combining at random, just throwing in random guns that have already been made. These guns are being affected by reverbs, compressors, G-clip, dispersers. There's going to be 3 separate groups here you want to pay attention to. The main group, which is holding all of our audio layers and our MIDI layers. The next group is the mixology room, which is G-clipping. It is clipping our sub and our guns together. The guns are the mid basses. They're being cut. None of the subs come through. The sub is controlling the sub frequencies and the lows. And the guns you see here have all EQ. They have reverb for cleanliness, making it a little bit loud with the multiband dynamics. And a clipper just to clip it off at 0. That's the gun group holding all your audio and your MIDI. So this one's really important. This is your first group. You're going to want to make sure you do this. Keep in mind your reverbs are always going to be tight decay, 600 milliseconds. Anything under a second is good. Dry and wet, 30%. Multiband dynamics is using very minimally at 33%. Cool. The sub. This is going to be a really nice, loud, fat sub. Then we turn it down -7 because we're using G-clip to turn it up. So keep that in mind, this headroom here. This is a very clean sine wave made from serum. If you get serum, any sine wave, and blast it with a saturator, then you can add an EQ8 to do a low pass. You can make subs like this, but you can experiment with any subs you want. Main thing you want to do is these dynamics. You want a lot of the sub to play through. In comparison to the gun, the sub is going to be louder, bigger amplitude, much more beefier, but you still want to fade it out at the end. Just a little bit. Cool. Make sure all these clips are going to be in key 2. So see, this is F sharp. You're still going to need to transpose these down. So if I'm writing in D minor, that means these F sharp notes will be transposed down to -4 to D minor. It's important you do this with every single note here, even all your guns. If you don't know the original note, you can use apps like Key Finder to analyze the key as best as possible to try to get it on the root note or the 5th of your scale to try to get the best notes when choosing these samples. The samples we're going to get into soon, but I want you to know the group. So the first group is the gun group. This one's taken care of. The sub and the gun group are then grouped together for the mixology room, which only has the G clip on it. We're clipping it very heavily at 6.3. This is going to make that crunchy, amazing, awesome sound that we're used to hearing nowadays. So that is the magic. Then the mixology group is in its final grouping. This group is like the disperser group. 3 dispersers. Each one is going to be on the root note or a note in the scale. And it's also going to be moved to the right so that we can allow more of these low frequencies to pop through. If you see here, see how it like fades down to the right but goes up over here. We want these low frequencies to be affected the most. So that's why we're moving it to like 9 or 8 or 5. You'll be treating your dispersers like that. After your dispersers, you can do like 2, 3, or even 4. You can experiment with how many you want. That will add a lasery transient at the beginning of the sound. It will make it sound exactly how TEAROUT's supposed to sound. So this is doing a huge thing, these dispersers. If you're using anything else, it's not going to feel or sound the same. I recommend you buy the disperser if you're making TEAROUT guns for sure. Then simple loud rack after the dispersers. So we have OTT, 6 dB, 50%. Saturator, 4 dB, 47%. This saturator, you can move the dry and wet to taste, and it'll affect the sound a lot. That's what I did. OTT, 6 dB, 54%. This saturator is at 100% at 6 dB. These are all just making it really loud. Then we're using this EQ to boost frequencies and make it louder. Glue compressor to compress. Threshold's at -9. Makeup is at 5 dB. Utility's not doing anything. JST clip is going to be clipping it at 0 and then boosting the sound a little bit. We then add another multiband dynamics at 15%, doing very little. We turn off the mids and lows, so we're at 0. This one's still at 6. We don't want any mud to come through, so that's why we do this. JST clip at the end, clipping it at 0, boosting it even more. So lots of different effects to make it loud. We're paying attention to it not going past 0. So that's why we have this clipper at the end. We're measuring the loudness here. These are for the fake out effects. All these right here, these 3 are for effects during like the fake out. Swells, reverb swells, reverb throws. Cool. Then, if we solo this, you can hear the dispersers. We turn the dispersers off and the loud rack. So this is obviously making a huge mega difference. Now, if you see here, we're coming in like -9. It's too loud, but in my bussing group, I want you to be aware that my lows bus is being turned down -3. So the signal that you're actually hearing, if we measure it, is going to not be 0.9 like you just saw. So we're coming in at a very healthy -4. It's perfect loudness. We want to really be hitting like -4, -3 should be the maximum. -4, right, that is just fine. And then when you add the drums, then your master LUFS should be around like that -3. We can check that as well. Coming in a little hot at -2, but that's fine. We don't hear any visual mud. We can still do more tests and turn it down if needed. But this right here is the main beef. These guns, you want to make sure that you get these guns layered properly with the correct samples, which will include samples that really are like gunshots. So transient is important. The beginning of the sound needs to be really punchy, impactful, loud. A gunshot, just like a gunshot, like a real gunshot. It's like boom, fast, crazy loudness at the beginning, and then it fades out very quickly. And that's kind of what you're looking for. So if you're going to be layering bass one shots, like let's say we got a long thing like this, you can make it short and fast using your fades. You can even fade it down like this. So you're looking for sounds like this. And if this sound isn't loud enough, you can start to add loud racks like OTTs, saturators on these layers. So you'll see we added a gun and post-processing on top of it. So if we turn off the post-processing and turn it on, see it adds a little bit more volume. So if you need a little bit more volume, add some OTTs, add some multiband dynamics. If you need, add some saturation. That's what will make it loud. And then you can sprinkle in reverbs with tight decay always. Dry and wet to taste. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there's about 6 layers here. We'll do like half of them will have reverb. So you'll see this first one has it, second one does not, third one has it, fourth one does not. This one does not. This one does not. And then this one has it. So you'll be spreading out different reverbs. There's about 4 different reverbs at short decay. Dry and wet is at different amounts. We'll go over each of those right now. First layer, reduce ambience, OTT, Camel Crusher, and British Clean. Got the reverb, 36%. Got it like this. So like that sounds good just by itself, but it's really not enough. When you're trying to make this heavy, insane, crazy music, we need a lot. We need to get it pumping. So that's why we're doing so many layers. That's the first layer. Second layer is right here. We turn this one down to -9. And we cut out a lot of the mud here. So we're at 174. This is the really good cut. 170 cut. Next one. Cutting at 120. Transient shaper. This helps make it more of a gunshotty sound, you know, punchier at the beginning, fading out at the end. You can use transient shaper to do this too. For any sound. This one has reverb too, 38%. Short decay, 600. And then this one, this EQ8's not really doing anything right there. Turn down -3. Once again, these are all machine gun basses. So this original source sample is already loud, so it makes less work. If you choose just a bass one shot, you'll have to use probably more layers or use bigger loud racks on them. You can add extra layers like this, little bells, tonal sounds, which will help add to the taste of the layers. This is just a rhythm bass one shot womp womp in the root note. So we're not transposing this at all. Yeah, it's at 0. Cool. Then you want to add some transienty sounds, like a clap. And you're just fading, so you can just get the beginning of it. This is something dry for the beginning of the sound to make it more punchy. Then you can add some MIDI guns. So these are just using the samplers, dragging in guns, using the controls to transpose them. So if this is an E, we'll be transposing it down to the root note. And once we're at the root note, actually we would transpose it down to C. And then once we transpose it down to C, then we can play the piano roll properly. Which now you see D is our root note. This one's cut at 156, but this one is cut at 100. So this one has more of the lows coming through, more of that muddy frequency. All the other ones were cut pretty heavily, so this one is not cut as much. Reverbs on this one too. We even chopped up this bass loop to just get one part of it, which is just fine. I use key finder for this. I'll just get the sample, put in key finder, figure out the key, and then transpose here accordingly. Those are the layers. Pretty extensive, but needed. It's important that you know each one of the audio effects, the signal flows, like, the reverbs are at the end. It's important your reverbs are at the end. You want to get it loud first, then add your effects at the end. You can even use these EQ8s to clean up everything after. The more EQs, the better, all the time. So just some simple techniques. You can get very experimental here. Use as many layers as you want. Try different bass one shots. Try anything. Have fun. Just make sure the sub is consistent, constant, very clean. It's really important. You see here this sub is being affected by the dispersers too. When it's solo, you can tell. When it's non-soloed, it's hard to tell. Cool. And then simple rhythms, you get into triplet grid, you'll start to see you can make different patterns with the triplets, and that's how most of these tear out patterns are made. So see this right here. We're in 1/8 triplet, so 2 of these sections basically are what we're using. So we're going by 2s. And that's how we're making this. We speed it up here. See how we're using 2 full squares now? That's how we're making this rhythm. Nice and triplety. Cool. Call and response. If you look at the full, this is 4 bars. We're always working in 4-bar phrases. This is the best. Gun start right away. If the synth was not in here, it wouldn't sound as good, right? The synth lead in the background is almost acting as the call and response. It's adding the movement back and forth so that these basses can just consistently run that root note, keep running D, Otherwise, we would need more of a call and response structure if we didn't have the synth. The synth is what glues everything together. Check it. Listen without the synth. Now that sounds sick, but if we duplicated this and kept it going, it would start to sound repetitive. But if we have this synth lead keep playing, then we have a lot more movement, a lot more things to listen to, dance to, and then the bass stays fresh throughout the phrases. So it's really awesome to see them incorporate this. Really awesome to feel it too. It adds a lot more emotion in the drop, which is why it's one of my favorite ones, why we're breaking it down right now, because it's such a good one. But that is basically all the guns, okay? That's what we got going on. I showed you everything on those guns. Now I want to show you these synths. The chords were in D minor, right? So we're going to get a choir. Get some saws. These are super saws. You get a respace. So then if you look at the chords, you see D is what we start at. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is our 6th. Then we go here to our 5th. Then we go here to our 4th. And then we have these notes as well. So we're making chords. And see all the highlighted notes, these are the chords in our scale. So as long as you stay in the highlighted notes, we're on the right track. The first chord should be the root note chord, which is D chord. That's usually how you want to start for now. It'll make it a lot easier. And then the respace, you see this. This is going to follow what the chords are doing. So D, F, E, D. So actually, the F and the E are not going to be in these. You see here, we got B flat, A, and E, but it still works because it's in the same scale. Listen here. Cool, and then we have the synth lead holding it down. So if D is our first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we start at the 5th at A. So we go 5, 3, 2, 3. Then we walk down the scale. And then that's our loop right there. So 5th, 3, 2, 3. Then we go to the 4th. Then we walk down the scale from there. So we're walking down from this section to this section, and then we start walking down the whole scale in here, and then that's like a really nice loop there. This is just an ARP made with arpeggiator. So you get a pad playing the D minor chord. Put on the ARP for the one time. It's on Diverge 112. So this is triplet. That's cool. Pre-drop is just a different instrument, a different synth playing the same exact notes. So these notes were up here, you know what I'm saying? But then we moved them down here, added a new instrument that sounded different. Super cool transition right there. Remember, I'm just referencing their track, you know, trying to recreate the techniques that they did here. That's how we're getting this loud big ride at the build-up. Loud big rides in the drop. I layer multiple rides to get that. We're layering multiple snares to get a nice big fat snare. And then we're getting the kicks. So like phase 1 has a lot of nice kicks. You can get low kicks, high kicks, and try to get as many like regular organic samples from real drum sets. Mix regular with digital, you know, analog and digital, regular recordings. Different recordings sound differently. So really try to experiment with getting these cool kicks that are trying to emulate drums. A lot of these are like the same amplitude and volume. So a lot of these should be different volumes. Like when you're really playing it with your feet, the double bass, it's not going to be the same exact volume every time. So to make it more human, you want to like turn down all these at different volumes and have it like kind of move with amplitude as well. So keep that in mind. You know, we're using triplets, of course. All right, guys. You know what it is and what it ain't. Thank you for joining. Man, I love yvm3. It is the future, like Yakz said. For real, man, this is the type of style I've been dreaming of making. And now that I'm learning of doing it, you're going to see a lot more of this out of me. I want to teach you guys the goods. These are the secrets. I hope you guys are tuned in, that didn't get bored. If you stay till the end, you are the OG. Thank you for tuning in. Stay fresh. Keep it real all day. I'll see you later. Peace.